Hello, I'm back and I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would edit this super cute cocoon pose. So first of all, we did take our two shots and you can see that these are very similar shots here. And yeah, so these were super similar shots here, and I took them just seconds after each other. And that way that's giving us the cleanest composite. So I literally just have to take this head and put it onto this body. You can do the opposite if you want to. If you prefer like his eyes here, you can do that. I just find that compositing the hair is so much easier and it's quicker. So I like to do that. So I'm just going to right click on the background. Let me show you again. I right click on the background, or you can do that on your duplicated layer. And you can duplicate this layer, and then you are going to put it onto the image that you're going to want to composite on, and that would be this first one here. I push OK, and then I go back to my image here, and this layer 2 is the layer we just duplicated. So I like to make that 50%, and then that allows me to see the image I duplicated as well as the original image. So you can see here, and you can see that they're overlapping a little bit, like they're not quite lined up here. So that's what I need to do now, is to line it up as close as possible. So I push Command T, that's my short code for transform. And I am just going to see, I think those line up pretty well, so I might just need to make him you see how these don't quite line up? So I need to make this layer 2 a little bit bigger. And I like to drop that right about there. So you can see, let me move that. And that looks about right. And it doesn't need to be perfect because the hair is it's messy and it doesn't need to be perfect, and mom and dad aren't going to be able to tell. But to me, that looks good enough because all I need to do is just get rid of these hands. So I'm going to push enter, and that will apply my transformation. I'm going to make the opacity of that layer back up to 100%. I'm going to add a layer mask, and I'm going to invert that layer mask. And how I do that is by pushing Command I for invert. I click B for my brush, because I'm going to paint this hand away. And I do that by making sure that my foreground color is the opposite of my mask color. So that my mask color is black, so my foreground is white, and that's perfect. If it's different, if there's colors there, you can push D to reset. Let me show you. So say that's not the right colors, I push D to reset the colors. That brings it to pure white and pure black. And if your foreground is on black and you need it on white, instead of going and changing the colors, just push X, and that will swap those out each time. So that's perfect. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to paint this hand out. And then just a reminder how to do this easily, you're going to also use your short code. I push Control and Option. I have a Mac, so that might be different on another computer. I push Control Option, and then I just click my mouse. I drag to the left to make it smaller. I drag to the right to make it bigger. I'm holding down Control and Option in doing that, so you don't just click and click. It's hold, drag. So I've gone ahead and done that. I've put my brush to a good size, and I'm just painting away the hand. And that looks great. And now baby looks adorable. So I'm going to just, I'm going to hide that layer just to see what it looks like before and after. And I think that I can transform a little bit more and move that head over to make it look a little bit more realistic. And I'm probably going to move it down a tiny bit too. And you can see hiding that layer, that looks a little bit more realistic. And you can take a little bit extra. And I think that looks good for me right there. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to snapshot that, and you that'll just keep your history. So that way if you realize, uh-oh, I actually messed up and I need to go back to this layer here, you can go back to your snapshot and then re-edit. But keep in mind, you'll have to re-edit all of the edits that you did after that point. So try and make sure that you get your edit right so you don't have to go back, but just in case you need to, you have that option there. So snapshot, and then I Command Shift E to merge. I press up and press and hold up, Command S to save my progress. Hold Command, press J to create a new layer. Now from here, you can see there's still an arm here. So I'm just going to use my patch tool, and you can either drag that, that'll probably work really well, or you can use the content aware fill, which would also work really well, but I think the patch tool probably just works way quicker in this situation, and that's fine. I might in fact drag it this way a little bit so that way we still get the pattern. Perfect. So I'm gonna again snapshot, hold Command Shift, press E to merge. I'm going to press and hold up Command. So this has to be quick before that happens. I place my fingers over up Command, and then I just do it kind of simultaneously. Up Command S to save my progress. Now I'm going to work on my crop. So for the crop, I'd probably bring up a little bit more, and I'm going to just angle him. No, I think I like him angled just like that. I am going to do a little bit of negative space here. So I'm using my crop at a 5:7 ratio, and that just looks nice to me. I should have shot this with a little bit more negative space on the top there. And then I'm getting rid of a little bit of space here. But I think that looks nice. And we're going to let the content aware here fill in this space here. And this is a shot that's going to be really good for an announcement or something like that. And I've chosen this for my negative space because he's looking in this direction. His nose is pointing in this direction. So for me, it feels better to have the negative space on this side versus if we were to have the negative space on this side, he looks like he's looking out of the frame, and this, it doesn't, it's of less interest. But for me, this feels better. So I'm going to go ahead and push OK. And hopefully that content aware does a good job. It has a lot to copy from, so it should do a pretty good job. Okay, that did pretty good. I'm going to snapshot. I'm going to merge and save, create a new layer. I don't really like what's going on here, so I'm just going to, alter it a little bit with what I have. There we go. And I'm not super particular about that because it's not going to show too much. So I just make it so it doesn't look like, what can happen a lot when you do the content aware is that it looks like the pattern is repeating and repeating and repeating, and you can tell that it's been extended, or it just doesn't look right, and people don't really know why, but I just like to make sure that it all looks, even though it's been copied, it looks original. So from here, I'm going to take my brush. I like to do paint on a little bit of the color here just to make it a little bit more dreamy. So I like to take a middle tone instead of like a super dark or the brightest. I'll take a middle tone here, which seems about right here. I bring my brush to a 20% opacity, and then I make sure that my hardness is super soft, and then I just brush it on like so. And already that looks super cute. You can either do a layer and brush it off, or just erase it off of the baby's hands and face and hair. Make sure that your opacity is at 100% when you do that, or you can put it at 90% and brush it off carefully. I'm not that careful. I just get it done. To check where you've painted on, you can just click that. It's right below the delete button. It's the bracket tool on the right hand side. Just to see where you've painted on and painted off. I think I've done a little bit too much on that side, so I'm going to paint that back on. I think that looks really cute. You can always lower the opacity if it's a little bit too much. I might do it a little bit. I snapshot, Command Shift E to merge, up Command S to save my progress, and then we can just go up, and here's all of our progress in our snapshot. So if we needed to go back, we're like, oh, I don't like that, need to fix that, or I didn't like the way that went, you can go back and fix that, or just scroll all the way back down to continue your edit. Now from here, you can just get rid of this image. We don't need that anymore. And then just continue editing this here. So now once I have my backdrop, the background here where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and start editing baby. And I go ahead and I always like to clarify the eyelashes. I always try my best to get the eye that is closest to me in focus. And you can see that one is pretty crystal clear, and that one is has a little bit more of a soft blur on it because I'm really focused on this one here. But I like those eyelashes to look extra sharp and beautiful, so I just paint that on, and on their lips too if they're in focus. I mean, right here there's not really a huge point, it's just more of a habit that I do it. But I want those eyelashes to pop, and you can see that they do already. And sometimes I'll really turn up that. Yeah, look at how cute. I want those, like when they have the eyelashes, I really like to enhance those and let those be the real focal point there. So I just love that. So I'm going to snapshot, merge, and save, and create a new layer. From here, I like to add my contrast. So we do our best to get really good shadows in Studio. We've got that triangle of light here on the eye and the cheek, and our shadows here on the nose and on the side of the face. But I like to just take a step further and enhance that with contrast, and that's going to brighten the light, and it's going to deepen the shadows. Sometimes it can be a little too much, and you might need to paint it off like the darker parts of the image, because when you print it out, you want to be able to see all of the detail to some degree. So for me, I really like that, and I don't think it's too dark. I'm just going to adjust and see what I feel is best. I kind of like it at 50%. It's typically what I do my newborns at. So I snapshot, Command Shift E to merge and save, and Command J to create a new layer from my background. From here, I like to add a little bit of a vignette, and then I go ahead and do that, and that's already looking so cute. Snapshot and merge and save and create a new layer, and then I'll add a little bit of a border blur. I don't want it to look too blurry or anything like that. I just want it to look a little bit dreamy, so I just add a smaller blur than I would a vignette. And I just double check my work as I'm going and making sure that it still looks nice and it looks real. Okay, snapshot, merge, save, create new layer, and from here I am ready to add my finishing touches. So from here, this looks great. I'm really, really happy with this. Immediately I have set my action to be on my noise layer, and I just have to paint that off baby's face. I do leave the noise on everywhere else because we've added so many different alterations here that we're going to get so much noise, especially in those shadowy areas where we've painted on like some yellow and things like that. So I tend to leave that everywhere, and I think that's okay. So I just kind of paint that off there, maybe off his head a little bit, and maybe a little bit off of our main subject. But there's a lot of shadow here, And I want to kind of keep that noise right there, or I'm going to get some banding. And I can show you what that would look like before and after. So you can see, especially right here, how there's quite a lot of banding, and that's because we have all of these different effects here which are creating that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. It wouldn't be there otherwise. So with the noise, it really, really helps that. And because you don't want that to print that way. So there you go. And that's how I would leave it. And I think that looks absolutely adorable. I'm not going to adjust anything here, but if baby's a little bit too underexposed for you, you can always take your tones and adjust those a little bit more, a little bit brighter. I think I'm going to leave mine here at 50% because I don't want this to be so bright where it looks blown out. And this to be blown out. I want to be able to see everything as evenly as possible. And then if you wanted to reduce any haze or shadows, you can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and snapshot, and I'm going to merge this, save it, and Command J for a new layer. And then I move on to my skin editing. And I do that because if you look at the image before versus after, it feels like there's less for us to edit now, whereas there might be more before. But when you add all of your, let me get on this one. When you add all of your special effects, and you really highlight that skin, it feels like there's quite a lot less to edit. He has great skin anyway, so but that's not always the case with every baby. So I like to use my matte foundation by Buffalo Baby, and I'm going to go ahead and push play. That takes a couple seconds. And I'm going to brush this action on. And because our layer here is black, we want to make sure that our foreground is the opposite color. So we push X to reverse that. And I love this because if you do get banding on skin from all of your actions, this helps because this is adding a lot of noise to the baby's skin, and that really helps with a lot of the, like, look at that just disappearing. That's great. Now I do not add this to the nose because it gives like a weird nose effect that I personally don't like. I'll use portraiture on that area to make it nice and smooth and dreamy. But I don't really apply this in any other place except on the cheeks and on the forehead, just to get rid of most of those little imperfections. I keep it off of the eyelashes and a lot of the hair, and you can be pretty quick with this application. Don't spend forever making it perfect. Just get it done and move on. Do a quick layer on, layer off. Like right here, I'm missing a little bit of his little dimple, so I'm going to bring that back. And if your shadows are too intense, this can look a little bit funky. So make sure to work on those shadows. And then I'm going to go ahead and snapshot, merge, and save. I will go ahead and apply my portraiture. I create a new layer. I invert that, and then I directly apply it. You want to make sure your foreground is the opposite color. And I go ahead and put that right over where I put the Buffalo Baby, and I put it on the nose too. Sometimes I'll put it on eyelids. It just depends. I don't want to make it look overly smooth, so I only apply it on the surface of the skin and not on the creases or the hair. I mean, I could apply it here on the chin if I really wanted to. I think that looks cute. We want to make sure that we're not making the baby look flat. And that can happen a lot. Okay, let me see. I think that looks really great, and I'm happy with that. I'm going to finish. Now before we move on to the red reducer, something that's really bugging me that I've been waiting to do is the roundness of him and his wrap. If I don't get it perfectly round, which is always my goal, I do adjust it a little bit in Liquify. So to do that, I go to Filter and Liquify, or you can push up, Command X. So I will go ahead and just make those extra pieces that are sticking out just a little bit rounder. And like I said, you can do this easily and quickly by holding and pressing Control and Option at the same time. And I will just go ahead and show you how I do that. I might also make their head look a teeny tiny bit smaller. If they're too close to the edge, sometimes I can get a little bit of distortion from my lens. So I just bring that head down a tiny bit. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. And then we can just see a quick before and after. And I've just made him a little bit smaller and rounder, so he looks like a super cute bundle. Okay, so I'm going to snapshot that. Go ahead and, but before we go, I've noticed that this is less round here, and I like all of the layers to look pretty round too, because I feel like that helps that perspective of, or that illusion really, that he looks nice and round. So if that looks a little bit flat on one side, I round that out just a tiny bit. And there, I think that's really done it. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so from here, I will go ahead and run my red reducer. And I would paint, I paint that on at 100% on the lighter areas of baby. And then I try not to go in the shadow area, like on their cheeks. I like cheeks to look pink, but under the nose here can be removed. And there's a little bit too much red in the fingers, but these fingers are also not blue, and you want to make sure when you're wrapping baby that they're not blue. That means that their circulation is getting cut off. But reds are just, or they just come with newborn. So this is where I've painted my reds. And notice I've not gone on the cheek, because I like for the cheeks to be a little bit more rosy. And if I took that off, then he looks like he's lacking color in that area. But if I leave the cheek pink, it adds more dimension to him. And you can see that before and after there. So with a little bit of pink in his cheek, he looks more natural. He looks like a real baby. So I'm going to leave that there. And I did paint on this eye a little bit, just because that one was a little bit extra red. So I went ahead and took that off. And then if you wanted to change your opacity of your brush and do like the extra reds over here, but it's not up to you to make baby look absolutely perfect. Parents know that their baby is not perfect and they really want to capture the essence of their baby as realistically as possible, but obviously within your creative vision. So just try and keep it natural if you can. So I'm going to save that, merge it and all of that. I'm probably going to run that red reducer one more time because under the nose is a little bit too red for me and it's really standing out a lot. So I'm going to bring my red reducer to 100% opacity and just run it on this side here, and you can see that it's a little bit yellow, and we'll go and adjust that with the reduced yellow in just a minute. Might take a little bit extra at 20% opacity of my brush and paint on a little bit more on the eyelashes, or just on the eyelids there. And I think the red that's left over there is fine. I'm not going to adjust it anymore. Snapshot, Command-Shift-E, up Command-S, Command-J. So this red reducer here it makes those reds a little bit warmer into the like more orangey side and can almost look a little bit green. So you'll want to be careful how much you put on. Don't overdo the red reduce. And then if you get like this extra yellow tinge here, you'll want to take the reduce yellow and bring that to 20% opacity on your brush here. And then I just run that over. And that way it doesn't look like he has a weird mustache situation. And the eyes were looking a little bit yellow for me here and here. So I'm going to run that there. Just apply it. And there's a little bit extra yellow here. And that's probably a color cast from the yellow that we have here. Now let's have a look. And that's that before and after. It was a little bit too yellow. And now it looks great. I am super happy with that. I do see a little bit of blue in here. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow by correcting the blues, and that one I bought from Kelly Brown. And just in the cheek areas, just add a little bit more life there because we've edited him a lot, and sometimes that can happen due to our white balance or just the amount of editing that we're doing. But in the shadows, sometimes that can happen. You want to make sure that your baby doesn't look gray or blue. And you can see a before and after there. Baby looks a little bit warmer. I might reduce that a tiny bit. And I think that looks great for me. The next thing I'm going to do is to go in and touch up all of these little flakes. So I go ahead and do my spot heal brush, which is Shift J, 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 until you get to this little guy here. It's the spot healing brush. And you want to make sure that your hardness is up and your size is, you can change both of those by hitting the control option. Again, your size, right to the right is big, to the left is small. If you go up, you're going to make your brush soft. If you're going to go down, you're going to make your brush hard. So I like the brush to be hard. And then I just go in, and you don't have to get rid of every little flake, every little piece of skin that looks out of place. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure that your brush is about the same size as the flake that you're trying to remove, or it can make it look distorted and it doesn't look very nice. But I find the spot heal brush works faster than the patch tool, unless you have a collection of flakes or little pimples that would just be easier to remove with the patch tool. Then that's when I would use that. And like these areas get a little bit more complicated, so I like to individually remove those flakes. Okay, let me see. All right, that looks really good to me. I'll show you a before and after. Before, after, and that took me probably less than 2 minutes just to get rid of all of those flakes. And you can see that there's still some definition in the eyes, like you can see little veins and little red spots. That's fine. I might go through and get rid of this, like a little bit of the red and a little bit of the distractions here a little bit more. But I think otherwise that looks really great to me. So there's this whole patch here that looks a little bit off to me. So I'm going to go ahead and just take my patch tool, and you can get there by, again, pushing Shift J until you get to this icon here. I'm just going to sort that out a little bit because it just looked a little bit funky to me, whether he had like a bunch of little pimples there or whatever that might have been. Because that under the nose area is just standing out quite a lot to me. And I don't love that. So that looks way better. You can see that we just by getting rid of that little area, now I can really focus on his eye and his cute expression without going, what's that? What's that under his nose? Yeah. I guess that's the main thing, is just getting rid of the distractions on the face. You don't have to get rid of everything. One thing that I would get rid of, which is a little bit distracting to me, is I would reduce this area. It's kind of bugging me a little bit. I mean, you don't have to get rid of it completely. You can drag it, and then you can reduce your copy by 50% by pushing Command-Shift-F, and then that's a fade. So you can just kind of fade that area, and I will sometimes do that by 50% or whatever you want it to do. And yeah, I'm going to just take that little extra piece. I don't love that, but I like that you can see through and see the definition in his hair, so I want to keep that, but it was just a little bit too much for me. So I think I am about done here, and this is my final image, and I'm really happy with that. If I would do anything more, I might run portraiture again and get real crazy and just run a little bit of portraiture or a blur on the backdrop. And I would not apply that at 100%. I'd probably put it at 30% and see how that works. And I'd make my brush a little bit harder because I don't want that to reapply to him. And it just made that look a little bit softer. I'm going to actually apply that on a little bit of his wrap. And I just think that makes it look extra sweet and dreamy. So subtle that probably only I would notice. And make sure I don't have any on his hair or face, because we've already added quite a lot of skin softening on him. And I am super happy with that. I'm going to leave it there. I'm probably going to liquefy this a little bit more. If we were getting this ready for a competition, then this is probably to the extreme that I would go to. But I probably, for a client, I probably just would have been done a while ago. I think that looks really perfect, and I think I'm going to go ahead and stop there. And I'll go ahead and show you a quick before and after. Before and after. Thank you. I hope that helped.